So let's talk about something a bit humorous that's come out of this Switch 2 release, the launch that happened last week, and the subsequent numbers that have been revealed to us by Nintendo and Famitsu, and how exactly it's affected the secondhand market. The market that a lot of gamers get really annoyed with because it just ends up costing us more money for a product that, if it was kind of left alone by a lot of scalpers and resellers, would most likely have been found at retail price. We've been dealing with this for a while now too, right? I mean, even the original Switch when it dropped in 2017 went through this, but obviously the PS5 and the Xbox Series was terrible for a while. PS5's going for upwards of $1,500 at one point. It was madness, absolute madness. But you know what? While the Switch 2 launch and all the stuff's coming out, a lot of clashing online, there is something I think positive to be taken away here, to the sense that maybe getting a system at launch going forward, just for many of these different releases, won't actually be that bad. But we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're going to start today with this video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Subcase. The Switch 2 is now out, which means it's time to go accessory shopping, and for that, Subcase has you covered. They have an entire lineup for charging your extra Joy-Cons with their charging dock, keeping everything organized, including your game cartridges with their charging storage base, and of course, keeping your new system protected with their Unicorn Beetle Pro. This Subcase Switch 2 case makes the system much more comfortable as a handheld with extra grips on the back for better ergonomics. And with the foldable Joy-Con covers, you can still snap them on and off without having to remove the case. The slim design means it'll fit into your Switch 2 dock as well. The charging dock is great for extra pairs of Joy-Cons, supporting up to 4 total. With the USB-C interface, you can plug directly into the dock and keep them close by when it's time to play on the big screen. The 9 different lighting effects on the bottom are a nice touch for further customizing the look. Finally, the charging storage base helps to keep things organized and charged, with slots for Joy-Con controllers along with indicators to let you know when they're fully charged. There's support for storing up to 9 different game cards at the front, so you'll have everything you need when it's time to game. Click the link in the description below to see Subcase's Switch 2 accessory lineup today. Thanks to Subcase for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so we know Nintendo announced that they have sold over 3.5 million units globally in the first 4 days. They use the word sold because they are technically counting through to consumers, not necessarily shipped to stores. That's very important because that would mean, I assume, many people assume, that just more systems in general are in transit, as in they're still kind of flooding the market right now with supply. And we see releases all the time for things, even just outside of just game consoles, video cards being a big one, where people complain saying, how much supply did you guys actually provide us? Well, here it looks like Nintendo supplied the market with quite a number of these systems, all right? And it makes sense coming off of a massive install size, with the Switch being more than 150 million sold. It basically, at launch, they can't make enough of these things, right? They're going to sell out of them at that point. Even if 10%, we'll say the low mark of that install size for the Switch, wanted a Switch 2, you're still going to have to sell 16 or 17 million to meet that demand, right? So in that sense, Nintendo did have a pretty big task in front of them for it, but it seems like so far they've kind of met the challenge. I say that because I do see a lot of people right now say, hey, you know what? I went to the store the next day after the midnight release and I just bought it. It was there, and I picked out a game or two, and I got an SD card for it, a Pro Controller. It was a pretty seamless experience. It wasn't a headache to worry about getting this system necessarily. Some even just said they got it on a whim. It's like, oh yeah, there it was. I picked it up. Different world compared to 2020, right? Where it was weird seeing a PS5 in stores even a year later, right? It's strange stuff. I do think about the PS4 and the Xbox One launch when that happened in 2013, and I do remember it wasn't easy to get one, but if you had pre-ordered or you were willing to stand in line, there was stock. Like, there was enough to get a system initially at launch without having to deal with massive sellouts because of bots online, that kind of thing. So it's just, we get so many console launches now in like a decade plus, right? So we'll see, I guess, in 2028 how things go, maybe with Sony's next system. But at least for now, this seems to have thrown a bit of a wrench into the plans of a specific group, okay? That comes down to the resellers. I do want to point out, though, by the way, in Famitsu, They track, of course, the sales, retail sales in Japan. 947,000 Switch 2 systems sold there in a couple of days, because remember, it came out halfway through the week. So even in Japan, they're flooding the market, but it's impossible for them to keep up there as well. But it just kind of goes to show that Nintendo's strategy was, let's just ship a ton of these systems. So the effect that we're seeing is that it's completely backfired on scalpers. And I feel like most of you who are watching can get behind this idea, because we saw this immediately. Remember when the pre-orders went up, people were taking their Switch 2 and they're like, okay, cool, I got the pre-order. Let's go over to eBay and start listing this thing. And we saw some of them pop up for like almost $1,000. It was like $800 to $1,000 is very common. And people were going on mass reporting them, trying to get them pulled down, because you need to have the product in hand within 30 days of it coming out, right? You can't do, so it's very difficult to do a pre-order then because you don't have it, right? That's the problem. And you won't have it for a couple of months then when they were doing pre-orders that time. So now I'm looking at this. These are sold listings. These aren't even like, oh, let's list these for $800. I don't see that in the sold listings, guys. I see a $665 Switch 2 bundle with Mario Kart World that typically sells for $500. And I will say, of course, these sellers, for the most part, would have to deal with some kind of state tax in the U.S., unless they're all buying it in Delaware or something. So that also does go into the cost part of it when it comes to them trying to measure out how much profit they're making. All right. So as we go through this list, I want you to realize you're going to see this a lot. This might be one of the best one I see right here. $640 with $20 shipping on a $450 system. That's actually not the worst. But think about how a lot of time the resellers, scalpers, they want to double their money right away. That's kind of the idea. Get the product, see if you can double up, and then move on. They'd be selling for $900 plus, because the fee for eBay is like 13.5%. That's the thing they don't necessarily show you here. So if you take any of these listings, here's a no reserve, right? So they just let people bid on it. And $635 with $17.86 delivery. If you run that through the eBay calculator, it'll tell you what their margin is there on what they make then. It's like 11%. I don't really know why you would go stand in line or make a whole thing about trying to get one of these systems to make 11% on your investment, and then also have the chance of you not being able to sell it. Now, I do think the Switch 2 you can sell and get your money back one way or the other, even if it's at like break even locally, say. This isn't the cash cow that I kind of think many of them were people who were reselling were hoping to see. There's at least a $691 one. That's like one of the high marks of $680. I've seen some of these be bundles where they're throwing in an SD card. Hey, we'll give you a 256 gigabyte SD card. We'll give you a controller of some kind with it, one of those PowerA ones or ON ones. Just doing whatever they can to try to sweeten the listing a bit. It's not budging above $700. See, here's one with a Pro controller for $725 with $20, but the Pro controller is $85. So it's the reason I'm happy to see, I will say this, I'm happy to see what's going on here with the scalpers, is because this is one of those situations where it does become kind of deflating then if your plan is to resell these console launches. It makes you reconsider maybe the next one. And that's what I'm hoping is they go, is this going to be the plan for these companies in the future? Will Sony look at this and go, wow, if we can make enough of them now because we don't have supply chain issues like we did in 2020, yeah, we can sell them all. People have no problem. The market seems fine with a $450 to $500 Switch 2 with, being bundled with Mario Kart, but like they don't have a problem spending that kind of money at the counter on launch for the most dedicated fans, you assume. And then of course you buy games or accessories, other things. You might be spending $600, $700, $800. So Sony might think, okay, we can flood the market and we can make it happen and we'll sell them, which not exactly what scalpers want to hear. So I am very happy to at least see from that side that it has completely backfired on them and it just doesn't make sense at all to buy any of these systems up, these Switch 2s, to resell them. Why? Because that just leaves it for people who actually want the system to play it. Whether you're annoyed at Nintendo or not, you're like, oh, hey, if at least somebody really wants the system, they can indeed find it. And hey, hopefully that means if you really want the PS6 in the future or whatever Xbox comes up with, the Xbox Series XXX, you can find it as well. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below, with the idea of the Switch 2 not being a great target for scalpers, resellers, at least not yet. I will say this, we have seen some systems in the past, and a lot of that's just kind of the weird times with the supply chain and the pandemic and all the stuff that was going on, to where we saw the Switch 1 get resold for more money than it was at retail 4 years into its generation. Is it possible this could happen here during the holidays? Absolutely, because there'll be a lot of demand, people looking to buy. But will it be as bad as supply chain issues, pandemic, and holiday all rolled into one for $1,500 PlayStation 5s? I don't think so. And to me, that's a good thing. But let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.